Week 2 of the Summoner Showdown is upon us. Let's go over a few champions to go and grind this out, and also some experimentation that I've done, and just like what everyone's using. Let's face it, it's mainly Gwenpool and Nick Fury, but you know, let's go over some other options because it's not just about them. There's actually a huge abundance of champions to use, especially with the emphasis being on bleed and doing bleed abilities and bleed damage and how that interacts with stuff like incinerate. Like one of the nodes that we've got is energy adoption. So defender has a 50% chance to inflict an attacker with incinerate on contact. These effects will not trigger while the defender is suffering from a bleed debuff. The defender also has 100% reduced damage from incinerate effects, and gains a regeneration buff dealing 1% of max health per second. Bleed vulnerability I think is the main thing. I think that's where a lot of players' focus is, but it could be a red herring because I know a lot of players have said like, well, Human Torch can sort out the problems of the healing factors. And then other players are saying like, okay, we'll use this and this and this, and with no mystics. It's important to look at the reality of what's going to be best for the rotation. And just before recording this video, I have been playing about with a 4-star Gwenpool, especially getting an understanding of the rotations and how that works. Now, first of all, if you do a bleed effect, which sometimes doesn't work out according to plan, when you start off the match and say you go for the first like parry, sometimes it's not there. I'd say it's always best if you're doing a very serious run for the Showdown edition, is to, if you got a parry and then you're able to hit in and get a bleed, that's a great start. It's a great platform. I've had times where I've gone to try and do a parry and it's just like nothing's happening, and as well the extent of incinerate damage just becomes too much, and I'm very rarely hitting off a bleed. It happens. So go out, come back in again, it may improve. What I do like about Gwenpool is the heavy attack. So if you're doing a rotation of really kind of like in your face damage, lots of bleed damage, you've got a bleed effect on, parry, heavy attack, or if you timed well, do a heavy attack. There's a lot of risk to this stuff, and especially the reward can be really there as you get a 6,000 damage bleed, which will interact with bleed vulnerability and output a great amount of damage. Also, and don't forget the SP2, because then you can just like power lock the champion. I'd say at times it's best to stick to the SP1, as the SP2 is a little bit more, well, you've got to overly think. If you're playing this aggressive, because let's face it, this is all about aggression, violent speed and momentum, for the Dr. Disrespect fans. It's all about that. It's all about putting in that damage as quickly as possible and also suppressing the SP2 from firing. So it's all on SP2 and the combination with the heavy attack. Just don't incinerate the enemy, which is the bit of a risk at times from doing that. So yeah, don't do the SP1. It's not good. You'll literally charge her up. You'll charge up Cap Marvel movie. Big no-no. Also, it's another perfect example of usage of Colossus. Yeah, another time, another week, and we've got Colossus as a potential option. His incinerate immunity does mean that this is a really good opportunity for the fight. I'll probably run on screen now some footage of the 4-star in action. I do have the 5-star version, but it was busy in content. I think it was Alliance Quest or Alliance Wars. So yeah, it's busy doing that, whilst I'm like, oh, you know, I'll just use the 4-star for this video. And it was still pretty cool. The damage output is there to then take down the enemy. The incinerate immunity massively helps. And let's face it, Colossus is a great option of a champion. But I think that's more for the show up than the showdown, especially when you want to utilize the bleed vulnerability. And especially for 1.4 mil, you want to be focusing more on either bleed vulnerability, or it's a case of, well, actually, I think it's bleed vulnerability that you've got to really focus on. Unless some champion is going to come up from nowhere that's going to be really effective. I don't know if people will try to get incinerate and then use the likes of Ghost in order to, well, phase. That will be something to find out whether or not players are going to actually go down that route. And especially with what we've seen in the past week with that shock Ghost that was put in as opposed to Medusa in the week 1. Anything can really be possible when it comes to taking down these Showdown champion bosses. Now, there are a whole host of incinerate immune champions, but the biggest problem is of what they trigger. If they are indeed triggering off things like energy, then it's going to be charging up Cap Marvel movie and it will absolutely spank you, which isn't particularly helpful. Looking on screen at the moment, you've got Emma Frost, you've also got Iceman, you've got Red Hulk, you've got Colossus, Silver Surfer, you've got Annihilus, Human Torch, Havok, Sunspot, Vulture, Void, and Nighthrasher, all of which, yes, are Incin Immune. I haven't mentioned the Mystics because you can't use the Mystics, but as well, some of these will do energy-based attacks, which will be free charges. There will be a lot to discover from over the next couple days, few days, week, as to what will be best or the best options to take on. It may be really obscure, but there will be champions that do bleed damage, which will be, I'd say, with the bleed vulnerability, better to focus on. Also on screen at the moment are a lot of champions who do bleed effects. Do bear in mind this is a list from 2018. I'm trying to look to try and find something that's more like 2019, 2020. So far not so good, but if I do find it, I will put the link in the description. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of champions that are utilized that are better against this. I've tried even Yondu. I think Yondu was didn't work out as effective, and I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board with loads of other different options to test out. But I'm sure that players will find some ones that are just like really obscure. But as well, Gwenpool, Nick Fury, Blade just seem to be some of the best ones that are there for huge bleed damage output in a very short space of time. That's been a little video going over the Captain Marvel movie boss fight in Summoner Showdown. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the qualifier times are going to be in the next day or so, but it's going to be either down to the bleeders, the phasers, or it's going to be down to, well, the human torches. But that's going to be the thing, like what the right champion is. For me personally, I've had great joy using the bleeders. Is it going to be a case that you're going to see a load of Blade, Gwenpool, and Nick Fury times? I think that's going to be the case. The damage that can be outputted from the likes of Gwenpool, the rotation with the SP2 and a heavy attack could really put that on the same platform as Blade. So you maybe you're going to see them like head to head. It's going to be fun to see what's going to happen, and also maybe there's going to be some obscure ones that are going to be dropped in there. But as long as it's not a case like we see all Medusas and one Ghost that was in the week 1 side of things, but as long as it's like livened up a little bit. If I can in the post edit, I'll try and put in as much footage of other characters and champions I've been using for this. But we'll see. We'll see what I have time to kind of deliver. But yeah, it's exciting to see what players are using. And yeah, what have you been using? Put it in the comment section down below. Has it been a bleeder? Has it been a phaser? Has it been an incinerate immunity? But in any case, thanks very much for watching this video, and also check out some recent content up there, and also some other content, I don't know, somewhere else. In any case, I'm trying to get some spotlight videos done today with some comic book history, and just maybe put more of like an opinion emphasis on it rather than kind of going in deep dives. So they're like 7 to 8 minutes a piece. I don't know, just depends on like the process of the edit, the recording, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.